Howdy, howdy, and welcome to episode 133 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. My name is Greg Lindberg. Here on episode 133, we are joined by a gentleman from the great state of Oklahoma who is a highly talented beat baseball player. He's also a sport ambassador for the U.S. Association of Blind Athletes and has dabbled in stand-up comedy. So why don't we go ahead and hit the field or the stage now and get rolling with episode 133 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. Okay, so here on this episode of Eyes Free Sports, I would like to introduce Mark Ivy, and Mark is a very accomplished beat baseball player. I'm also USABA sport ambassador, does a lot for adaptive sports, also dabbles in stand-up comedy. I know works in the blindness field, and just an all-around awesome dude. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate you having me on. I was going back through some of your recent episodes, and I mean, you gave me a pretty good intro, but, you know, not a Hall of Famer, not a Paralympian, not a CEO, not an engineer, just Mark, an awesome guy. So glad to be here.
Definitely.
And I love your calming voice. I am a listener now, so I started following the show. You got the nice little NPR voice going, you know, and almost like you got like a podcast your parents don't know about. You don't want to wake them up that late at night, you know. So.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I have been told I have like a male Delilah voice, if you're familiar with Delilah from the radio.
Yeah, there you go.
Radio, arena. So, but I appreciate that. Yeah. Cool. So why don't we go ahead and dive in? So I know you currently live in the great state of Oklahoma. So are you originally an Oklahoman native?
Yes, sir. I lived here my whole life. I'm 35 years old. Grew up in Tulsa, though. Went to Jenks High School. If anyone's familiar with Jenks, we got a rich history of football, 18 state championships. So when people hear Jenks, they hear football, but I grew up playing baseball at Jenks before losing my vision. So first 20, 21, 22 years, grew up in Tulsa, and then moved down to Oklahoma City and been here ever since. I was dating my now wife, but at the time dating her, she was going to OU. And after I got out of high school, just, wasn't, going to college, but still living at home. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. So that's why I really moved to Oklahoma City, just so I could be a little more independent. And then I was like, you know what, go to school closer to my girlfriend. If she doesn't work out, at least I'm going to school. And anyways, it both worked out. So she got a job first, and I've been here ever since.
Nice. Very cool. Glad things worked out for you guys. In terms of your visual impairment, I understand you do have RP, or retinitis pigmentosa.
Yes. Did you talk to my doctor?
I tried.
Man, this research this is a well-ran show. But yes, retinitis pigmentosa runs on the men's side of my dad's side of the family. And I know a lot of people have different, RP is like the same, but also super different for everyone. And so not like a coin flip situation for the men. So it skipped my older brother. My younger brother's got it. My dad's got it. My younger brother's never driven. He's got had to get a guide dog. I drove till I was 22. My dad just stopped driving at 67 or 65, so his didn't hit him till later. And then I have a daughter, a 6-year-old, sweet Evelyn June, that the way we understand is that she could carry it but won't be physically affected by it. But, it feels like every 5 or so years we get a new little piece of information where you don't put all your chips in on what you once thought. And so, we just are mindful of it and pray that hopefully she doesn't have to deal with that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's such a, can be passed on so easily, obviously. So.
Do you have RP?
LCA. It's in the RP family, so it's a very similar condition, degenerative retinal condition.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I don't want to complain too much about it, but I mean, I am in a current state of figuring it out. It feels like it's probably like I don't know, for me, probably once every 5 to 7 years, there's there's just a transition period where it's like, all right, gotten worse, and now I got to learn how to use a computer, which shout out to adaptive technology, but my God, is it tough learning it. And some days I just want to throw my computer through the window. But I'm making it, baby.
Yep, I feel you. I was a, magnification Zoom text user for a long time and have been with JAWS now for quite a few years. So, we adapt, we change, we do our best with it, right?
Yeah, you got to. It's 20, I tell people all the time, if there is ever a time to go blind, now's the time. Great time to be blind. I couldn't imagine losing my vision back in the day when you just, sat at home in a chair. So.
Exactly. And people were institutionalized. And I mean, thank God society, there's still a ways to go, but there's been a lot of progress, fortunately. And we are pretty lucky in this day and age.
Blind, people who are blind used to be institutionalized?
They did, yeah, 100 years ago, or probably even more recent than that.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy to think about. I know.
Rounding up all the blinds, to get in here. That would,
Yeah, it's really something how things have changed, but obviously there is still a lot of advocating and a lot of ways to go, but we have made a lot of progress, fortunately.
Amen.
So yeah, just in terms of your education more specifically and your career, if you just want to talk about those.
Yeah, so my what I had I come from a long line of baseball players in my family, and so my dad played he played college baseball, wrestled in college too. That was my career path. Now, I wasn't the greatest baseball player in the world, so I don't want to come off that way, but good enough to get some junior college looks and go play ball after high school, which, I mean, I'm sure that's a small percentage of folks that get an opportunity to do that. So I was excited to see where that takes me. And, going back to high school, I could tell things were going south when I was getting into that 14, 15-year-old range, like night games, if a pop-up got above the lights, I would lose it, and then as my peripheral shut in, balls would just get on me quicker. Like, a guy that I'd probably hit 400 lifetime off of is striking me out. I'm like, golly, that guy's bringing it. Coming back to the dugout, and they're like, not really, Ivy, and that, that peripheral, like picking a ball at first base, like all, like for real, like over one summer, that stuff just literally went away. And I remember going out for baseball practice, the first practice, and they start calling names out on where people are, who they're practicing with, and I had gotten dropped down to play with, the junior varsity. And I just remember walking off the field, not angry. I was not mad at my coach. I was angry and sad, and just walked to my locker room, grabbed my stuff, and went home and cried like a baby on my mom's shoulder for an hour. And that was the last time I played baseball, and the first time that I kind of, every person loses their vision throughout life, like especially if it's a slow progress. Just you come to these realizations where it's just like, all right, that's not happening. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so I went to, just like everyone else, just went to college, and at OSU, Oklahoma State University, go Pokes. And that place is way too much fun. And I lasted a year there, and came back in that time, kind of stopped driving. Going to a community college in Tulsa before moving up to Oklahoma City, Edmond, to go to the University of Central Oklahoma. And that I love doing that, but that, I just stopped driving. I do not know how to be blind at this point. Like, I work for a place called New View, Oklahoma. We're the largest employer of folks who are low vision or blind in the state, and then we have a low vision clinic where, we teach O&M and technology, whatever it is. We'll go into your house and help out. And they had tried to help me out. My summer after senior year, showed up with a cane at my house, talked to my mom, talked to my little brother. He got a cane. And I was like, this is the dumbest day of my entire life. Like, it was 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks before my little brother and I just broke our canes on each other's back fighting over a video game or something. And so I didn't know how to use a cane. And walking through college, just, I mean, I don't know, man. Like things like being at the student union, bumping into a female, and she thought I was being inappropriate. And I was just like, that's enough. It is funny now, but at the time, that's enough to just, you don't come out of your room after that, Like a professor asked if I was drunk or high, which I was not, at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And after that, I was like, I gotta do something. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. So I had called, at the time, I didn't work for them, obviously, but New View, and they came to my little apartment on campus, blindfold, cane. And I started using a cane, and that was definitely a turning point in my life of, just, it's like my shoulders just finally relaxed. I started looking up for the first time in 5 years because I was so always terrified of cracking my shins or, running into something. And so that little piece of independence definitely got me through college. And then, but that's all I knew is like some cane training. Like, I didn't know how to really advocate for myself. I didn't know what to do in interviews. And so these interviews just weren't going great trying to get jobs. And I would walk out too being like, I'd be interviewed for a job and the guy would be like, there's a lot of Microsoft Excel work. There's a lot of logging data for this or whatever it might be. And I would walk out and be like, oh, that guy was right. Like, how am I going to do that? And then come to find out up until 6 months ago, all of my settings and like stuff I needed to use a computer were already built into Windows. I just didn't even know it. And so I would like nowadays, if I go into an interview, I use all that stuff to my advantage. I tell folks who are trying to get jobs that are blind, like some people say, and if you have a different opinion, I mean, I totally get it, but some people don't like to talk about it in interviews. I like to talk about it, tell them how I do my work, and then put it all behind us, and let's focus on the job, just like anyone else is coming through there focusing on the job. So if you know how to do that stuff, you also make the people in your life more comfortable, whether it's a guy you're meeting for the first time trying to get a job or your wife, like my wife leaving the house and for a couple of days and I'm here with, a newborn. Like how do you make the people around you trust you? And it's just knowing how to be blind and showing that you can be independent. And then, the domino effect just kind of falls around you. But that was when I couldn't find a job, I reached back out to New View and they gave me a position out at Tinker Air Force Base. We got a contract out there where we recycle and refurbish the wood crates that the airplane parts come in. I'm
cool.
The first guy I met out there was running a nail gun, and he had worse RP than I did. And I never met someone with low vision outside of my dad and brother and a totally blind guy that I grew up with at church. I mean, I was like, he's got a nail gun? Like, what is this place? And then like our manufacturing facility, New View, we're the sole provider for the National Forest Service for fire hoses, and we have CNC equipment, and I like these $200,000 saws that I'm still not allowed to touch. But I got to see people in the same boat as me doing this stuff, and man, I'll just never forget experiencing that for the first time because it gave me that burst of things might be all right. And so, yeah, I've been at New View, Oklahoma, going on 10 years, and I've had a couple titles there, but in the last 5 years, I have been a fundraising or financial development manager, which is just fundraising, and lately also doing adaptive sports within our company and then spreading it across Oklahoma for low vision and blind folks.
Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, in terms of adaptive sports, so I know you mentioned kind of the challenges, growing up and getting, demoted on the baseball team and just kind of the challenges of mainstream sports. And I'm curious, when did you kind of first find out about adaptive sports, be baseball, goalball, different things like that?
Man, I hate that question because it makes me go back into one of my biggest regrets in life, which is not listening about adaptive sports. So when I told you New View came to talk to me and my mom and brother during that senior year summer, they brought up a sport called beat baseball. And they actually set up a meeting with me and my younger brother, Kyle, and with a guy named Bobby Lakey. You ever heard of Bobby Lakey?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Okay, so he's in the Hall of Fame in beat baseball as well. And they're sitting, and funny story about, I'll tell you in a second. So we're having breakfast, and he's got like this black eye, just got back from the World Series, telling us about it. And Greg, I was just like, this is the dumbest game I've ever heard in my life. The ball beeps, like, all right, dude. You know, like, I just got done playing real baseball. Like, I was very bitter, and I just didn't want anything to do with it. Now, my brother, on the other hand, he had never played competitive sports. His RP hit him early. And so a year passes, a couple years pass, and my brother's like, hey, I've been playing this goal ball sport in Tulsa. I was like, oh, yeah? And I look it up. I'm like, all right, sweet, another ball that's got noise in it. And still just not being bitter about not being able to do what I used to be able to do. And he talked me into going to this, to go into Colorado Springs to train and go through this camp with other athletes and the Paralympic team. And I went in there, and that's when everything changed, of just being like, holy cow, like, these dudes are getting after it. It's competitive. The game, like, so fun. And I walking on that court and playing, like, maybe even more so than, you know, some big at-bats I had in high school, or, you know, big pitches I had to make. The adrenaline was, like, times two. Because, you know, you got the blindfold on, and you can't, you know, you're just listening, and it was so fun. And so I came back and was on board with goal ball. And then at the time, no one was playing beat ball in Oklahoma, and I just never really reached out about it. And then fast forward, 3 years ago, someone that's working for a guy named Casey Bond from Pennsylvania is working for New View. He's always talking about beat ball. I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it. You know, he's like, you know, the World Series is in Norman, Oklahoma this year, and it's like 6 months out. And I was just like, huh? Okay, look, we got to have a home team. Let's start a team. We had some grant funding that was just perfect timing to where we got, you know, we're able to put some money into it. Tim Hibner, Hall of Famer, 3-time, 4-time world champion, was living in Oklahoma. I got to talk to him. He was willing to leave the Austin Blackhawks to pitch and start this home team we had cooking. And you know, without him, we just, I don't care how much funding you have. That's the thing about starting a beat ball team. It is hard as hell to do. And anyone that is doing it, God bless you. Reach out. I'll share whatever I have that might help. But it's a grind, man, and it takes a community to get it going. And so we did it and got the team. And I remember going out and playing for the first time it was just a scrimmage, but good night, were they serious. Like, it reminded me of going and playing in like some competitive tournament that I grew up doing. And I was just hooked, man. I was hooked immediately. And then getting like that first hit in that first run and just popping up, you hear safe, you know, somehow you know, like time just stops as you hit the ball. The base is buzzing, you're getting, you know, you're going and you pop up and people are cheering, you know, and it's just like, I'm playing this game forever. I'm not going anywhere. And so beat baseball, man, has, as much as I love it to get that adrenaline itch and competitive, you know, competition, it has, not being dramatic, Greg, it's changed my life. Like, it's the one, if I'm ever struggling with my eyes or something or whatever's going on, like, put a blindfold on, go take some hacks on the swing machine outside, go work on getting better at beat ball. And it's the one thing that makes me feel good, you know? So it's been huge for me, you know, physically and mentally.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I can relate to so much of what you're saying as I think back to high school as well. And my O&M instructor telling me about people. And I had the exact same attitude like, I don't want to, play with blind people. And how competitive could this game actually be? All those negative thoughts that and attitudes we have, at certain parts of our lives. And yeah, when I went to my first World Series, it was like, wow, this is amazing. Just some super elite
Yeah.
athletes, just unbelievable. I mean, some of these guys are in far better shape than a lot of sighted folks out there. It's really something.
Oh yeah. No, that was the first. Uh, because you're right. You're surrounded by. You're like that guy's a Paralympian. And that guy, and then you see him play, and it's like, oh, like we are surrounded by some of the best low vision and blind athletes, in the nation, and it's a privilege to be with them. And then, like you're saying, like they're top shape and stuff. Like I remember at the World Series, I'm carrying in, like a 12 pack, and I pass someone, hey, come, we're having a cold one. Come on. He's like, I'm going to the gym, dude. I'm just like, oh, okay. It's just like looking down, and I'm just like,
Yep.
because when I step between the lines, I mean, I'll put my competitive spirit against anyone. And then stepping out of the lines, that's where it came to my after a bunch of pulled groins and hamstrings and just ruining everything on my 35-year-old body that has not moved athletically in 15 years. I was like, I got to start doing this. This is not just beer league softball where you show up and play. And so, taking it serious too, because I want to be able to play for as long as I can, and especially now that I'm decent at beat ball. I've gotten to go to the All-Star games my first 2 years. We got players on another guy, Aaron Higby, who's been to an All-Star game. My younger brother's got like a batting title in a tournament. I'm thinking to myself, we got a little core here to where if we take this serious, like some of these other teams, we got one of the best pitchers of all time. Like we could actually make a run, and because it started out as like, because also like, USABA ambassador stuff, like you want to spread the word to anyone, especially the kids who want to play sports. And so we're always trying to get involved with like the School for the Blind in Muskogee and, kids from our camp that are in public schools that we know and getting them together to play. And, because some of these kids had never swung a bat. I got texts from parents being like, when's the next practice? Like, I can never send my kid to Little League and he loves it. And I'm just like, heck yeah, like that's what I'm talking about. And we will always do that. So that will never stop. But it did hit me after that first World Series where I'm like, all right, let's try to build a team, to take to these competitive tournaments and start making some freaking noise, because I'm not used to getting run rolled every game and just walking off being like, oh, that was fun. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Then you got, we shake their hands, and then it's and I stopped this, and everyone, sportsmanship is number one, but the Lookouts do not chant the other team's name that just beat our brains off 20-2. We shake their hands and say, you're the best, and then we chant our own name and go home. And so I was sick of losing. And so we're heading into this World Series with some pieces that we've added, and, working hard to go make Oklahoma a beat ball town.
That's amazing. Yeah. And for such a young team, a new team, like you said, that just got started in the last couple of years. It sounds like, with Tim Hibner, some of the new additions you've had this offseason, you guys are definitely building something there pretty quickly.
Just the friendships, man, too. And, getting on the team van, going to hotels, like the stuff off the field too, has been so great for my soul. And you say Tim Hibner, I mean, Tim Hibner, he is my best friend. He is my father. That's not my blood. He's a mentor. Like that man, he doesn't have ties to blindness in his life. He volunteered for a buddy one time and just got hooked and loved it. And, without Timbo, forget his Hall of Fame right arm, just his spirit and heart for others is so cool. And then you get to like a World Series or something, and don't get me wrong, Tim's 1 in a million, but there also are a lot of those types out there. Like, it's a family affair of folks taking PTO that don't have kids or, brothers or whatever who are blind and helping. Like, it's a big deal for the volunteers and people who help make this game go. And it just, I'll never forget seeing that stuff, the first few World Series, and just such a cool game.
Absolutely. Shout out to all the pitchers, the spotters, catchers, all the sighted volunteers that just make these tournaments happen. I mean, there's so much behind the scenes that goes on that a lot of folks may not realize.
Minus the umps, minus the Blues. I'm talking to you, Jason Price, you and your whole family, all right? Give us a call, for God's sakes. Yeah. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry about that.
No problem. I am curious about just any specific games, any moments you've had in your beat ball career here in the last couple of years playing for the Lookouts, or even like the All-Star games, or anything that really stands out.
So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of big wins to talk about yet. We had a game with the Bayou City Heat in the World Series last year, and, they're good. They're good. They're always prepared to make a deep run. And we found ourselves in a ball game. And it had been so long, Greg, since I was in like this, bottom of the sixth, 2-run game. Like, your body feels different. Your mind, like, you know how it is. Everything slows down. And I was just like, holy cow, we're doing it. We're in a ball game, baby. And we ended up getting walked off. And it hurt. I just remember that hurt. And that quickly turned into like the pride and just encouraging, because we weren't in those games. And I was like, we're doing something right. And I just have been I'm itching for those close losses, as crazy as that sounds. Because, losses were not hurting before this past year, which means, we're getting better. And so that was a big game against the Heat, getting walked off. Getting to go to the All-Star game is just, I don't care about individual stats. We really just want to win, but I do encourage, set some personal goals, because if you reach them, your team, you're just bettering the team, right? And so it was a big deal getting to go to that All-Star game as a rookie, because the rookie, they were taking 2 rookies. Me and Aaron Higby got to go, both Lookouts. And I would not have made the All-Star game, though, if it wasn't for being a rookie. So, my goal was like, all right, I can play. Now, this next World Series, let's go. I'm not going to be a rookie anymore. I'm not going to get, the easy way in. And let's go do well and go to the All-Star game again. And I was lucky, fortunate enough to do that. Shout out Timmy Hibner, can't do it without the right arm, and pitched me into the All-Star game again. And, I haven't had a lot of prideful moments since quitting sports, really, and so, I always encourage, I don't care if it's sports or like whatever you do as someone who has low vision or blindness, like, go try to win something for doing something that you like. And the feeling it gives you is just, the opportunities are slim, man. And so finding something that you're good at and then just putting everything into it has been something I've learned, not just with beat ball, that's, it's transferred over into life too. So if there's anyone that likes doing something, go do it more and better and better and better, and then figure out what you can do, beyond that. And you'll find yourself in a situation where, whether you're competing for something, whether you're being, honored for something, and it just does a lot for the heart and soul. So I'm very thankful for being able to play, staying healthy through that gauntlet of a World Series. I remember seeing the schedule for the first time, like a triple header. What? I was like, what do you got? Are you psycho? Like, we're already playing a crazy game. Like, what are we doing? Playing triple headers. And so we played more games in like the first 2 days than we had in the entire, existence of the Lookout. So it was baptism by fire. And that our first game was, our first game was the game of game of the day with Dave Benny and Rosina announcing. I got to meet Dave Benny for the first time, and
Yep.
the Oklahoma Lookouts here at Gillis Rother Stadium play the Austin Blackhawks. Mark Ivy, and so I was like, oh, I love these people, so it's been fun.
Yeah, it's like Joe Buck, Troy Aikman in the booth, when they call your name, it's special, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, it is.
That's awesome. Great impression too, by the way. I know you did reference your role as a sport ambassador for the U.S. Association of Blind Athletes, the USABA. If you just want to talk about what's kind of involved in that role and what you've been able to do through that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Greg, it's I touched on it with expanding adaptive sports throughout Oklahoma, and in the ambassador program, it's all you're surrounded by these athletes that are just doing things that I mean, you said it in my resume. I'm kind of this, I'm kind of that, I'm kind of an awesome guy. That's about it. And then you're surrounded by these people like, yeah, I cross country ski. Yeah, I'm the fastest blind dude in the world. Yeah, I'm the strongest. And I'm just like, this is so cool. It's awesome. And you get to, make these connections and see how people are doing what. But in terms of just the heart of that program, which is expanding the opportunity to those around you, that is something that we have been doing a really great job of the past couple years, and which has just, been magnified or, just really times two with the ambassador program, in your hip pocket, helping you go do this stuff. But I mean, we got to go to Austin, Texas to play goalball in a tournament, and I got to bring four Oklahoma School for the Blind students. They got their parents were like, Mark, I never met you, but they just trust me bringing these. Two of them were 14, and
Yep.
so I was like, oh, it's all fine and it's gonna be great. And we get down there, and I see the first game, and because I still have a little bit of vision to where I can see someone throw a ball and stuff like that. And this dude throws a ball that I've never seen in my life, the hardest ball I've ever seen. And I was on the verge of calling the parents and being like, hey, I'm going to show you a video. Let me know if you don't want your kid coming home without a face, because these kids have never, but they got out there and they played with them. And we're having a big group out for a huge beat ball practice in February where, it's also crazy, Greg, these adaptive sports, it's hard enough to get on the daggum field and play. It's hard enough to play the sport, but then getting there, how are you going to get all these kids? I don't know how your school for the blind works, but these kids they're all over the state, and then they're there Monday through Thursday, and they have pickup spots. And so everything we do that's the biggest headache. It's all right, Ryan, this high schooler at Oklahoma School for Blind, ask your mom if Ian and Braylon and OC can spend the night at your house. Earl, the van driver, will then come to your place. Then we'll get here. And then, then you all can go back to the school together on Monday. So your parents don't even have to worry about the pickup. And, so-and-so's, he's greyhounding in. He'll be here in 18 hours, it's crazy. It's freaking crazy. And so when it works and you get them together, it's just you've won something before you even start, because you just got blind people in the same space, which is, we're not great at going where we're supposed to be going. And so, yeah, we are constantly getting Oklahoma set up for a young youth base of adaptive sports to help start growing it into the future.
That's awesome and just so important, reaching out to the young people and helping to kind of continue these sports and the pipeline, of the athletes coming up.
Yeah.
So I know I mentioned at the top as well, you have dabbled in comedy, stand-up comedy, and I'm definitely curious kind of how you got into that, just if you want to talk about any gigs you've done and your process involved in that.
Yeah, so it was funny. I was asking, I was like, who told you? And you're like, Google told me. I was like, all right, well,
It's
Google
out
says
there.
it. That means I need a tour. Um, so I love stand-up comedy my entire life. Like I from being a kid, every now and again, letting my dad letting me, watch SNL. Before SNL, David Letterman. I remember always watching Letterman with him, and back in the day, they would. It's all like music acts now, but back in the day, it was commonplace where the show was closed out by someone, stand-up comedian doing 5 minutes, and I remember seeing Norm Macdonald. He's one of my. Oh, I think it was Norm. He was telling this joke about and his joke can work for a blind person too, but he's like, all right, I don't want to screw. All right, so it's I saw a homeless man the other day. Yeah, I saw a homeless man. He had a dog. Yeah, a lot of people feel bad for the homeless guy, but I feel bad for the dog. That dog's got to be saying, "Hey, buddy, this is the longest walk of my life." And it hit like even as like a 12-year-old, I was just like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life." Like this dog, of course, he's thinking, "Dude, when do I get to go inside? Like this stinks," And I was just laughing, and then you see like you're getting this reaction. Because I've always, if people ask him a class clown, I'll steal another one from Norm. People ask him that. He's like, oh, no, the shoes never fit. Them some big shoes. But, getting a laugh in class or getting a laugh where laughing isn't commonplace, where the situation's not right, whether it's, church or, for the most part, I am serious at funerals, but I do go to humor to cope with so many things. And so during the pandemic, everyone's just sitting around, and these open mic bars and whatever they're always tucked away in some corner, and no one even knows you're doing stand up at the place. But hey, it's a stage and a mic, and you get to tell jokes. And these places were closing, and at this point, I'd never done any type of formal stand up. And all I've had is, friends, yeah, Mark, you're funny. But it's different, being funny just around your buds and then going up with some type of structured idea of how you're going to make strangers laugh is just two totally different stories. And the Bricktown Comedy Club was opening up again during the pandemic and starting their open mics. And I got a newborn who's going to sleep super early. Nothing's going on. I was like to my wife, I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna go try this. And so signed up, and they got an online process where you sign up, and then they'll release all the open mic dates, and you'll get to see how many you get to do for that month. And I was on the list for 2, and so I went and did a set, and before this is crazy. Before I did the set, I'm sitting there talking to another comedian at the bar, just asking all the stupid, dumb questions that new people ask, probably annoying the heck out of them. And he just he pauses and he goes, "Hey, your blind buddy's here." And I'm like, "Huh? Like, what do you mean, blind buddy?" And he goes, "Your other little stick buddy just walked through the door." And I was like, "Are you serious? I'll go talk to him, but I don't have any blind friends coming here." And so this guy I hear him tapping. I go up and I was like, "Hey, look at us, what are the odds?" And he was showing up for the first time ever to try to do stand up. And they were dying. They're like, "We haven't seen a blind dude walk in here for 10 years. And here come 2 of you the same night." Like, it was so funny. It was so funny. And that guy actually, so he kept going. Like, so after the pandemic settled, it's life gets back going, my daughter gets older, and just, I can't get to places as easy. I'm 30 minutes away from all the mics. So it is a huge hobby of mine. I've been paid twice to do stand up, and it's the coolest feeling in the world. And but the blind guy Sean that walked in that night, he kept going. He's moved to Washington since. But I tell this story because we're sitting watching Dave Attell, me and Sean, and the manager comes up, taps Sean on the back, and I'm hearing him whisper. He goes, "Hey, Dave Attell's opener dropped out. He wants someone local. Can you do 10 minutes for Attell?" Attell is I don't know how you feel about him. I think one of the greatest comedians of all time. And
no doubt. Yep.
And my buddy got to go open for Attell the whole weekend. The coolest thing in the world. But getting up there for the first time, I was searching. This is before beat ball. I'm searching for the same thing I'm always searching for is adrenaline. Adrenaline, feeling alive. And I'll never forget walking up for the first time, finding the mic. I was like, all right, found the mic. Now that's good. What am I going to do with my cane? You see stand-ups always, especially during the open mics, they'll start casually, lay the stand behind them, casually walk back and get the stand at the end of their time, all this stuff. And I remember right before I went on too, the host goes, "Hey, don't run the red light." I was like, "Huh? Red light? What's a red light?" He's like, "Mark Ivy, everybody." I was like, "Wow, what's the red light?" As I'm like walking up there, I don't know. And so I found out what the red light was the second night because they give you like 5 minutes, and I had made sure my stuff was 5 minutes, and it went well. It went good enough to where I got off, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm funny, woohoo!" And went up the second night, and I ran over. And so when they say run the light, if for folks who don't know in that world, there's like a red flashing light at the back of the building or the room where it lets you know, it gives you like 30-second heads up, and then it lets you know, hey, get off the stage. And, it's a cardinal sin to run the light. It's like the unwritten rules of baseball. It applies to stand-up comedy too, And I ran the light, and they just blared music, blinded by the light, till I left the stage. And I was just like, oh my God. But Greg, people were laughing, and I thought I was like, oh man, I'm something else. So I go to this other open mic after places keep opening. It's this Italian restaurant called Othello's. And I get out there thinking I'm Mr., and everyone's going to laugh. This is just how it's supposed to go. And I witnessed or experienced my first bomb. Bombing is when you stand up in front of a group of people to try to make them laugh, and no one laughs. And it feels like you just got caught looking at a dirty website by your mother. Like your stomach just goes, you're sweating, you're feeling things you never felt. And this girl before me, she got up there and did this whole deal about being a Marine and all this stuff. And I get up there with my cane, blind, like hot, whatever. And I get up there and say, I was like, yeah, I got a better chance of being a Marine than that lady. Thinking, hey, haha, blind guy joining the Marine Corps. That's funny. Oh boy, was that not funny. I heard, hey buddy, I'm a Marine too. I was like, oh no. And then another guy, yeah, my grand, and I was just like, all right, take it easy. Like, then I get into my material, and it's just, I'm pouring sweat. No one's laughing. No one heckles me. I'm like, say something to him, and he's like, you're talking to an empty chair. I'm over here. I'm like, no, gotta get out of here. And it's in this place, I've never been to this place before, Greg, so I don't know the layout. It's this Italian restaurant with a stage in the bar. It's cramped. So I finally, what feels like an hour later, get off stage, but now I can't get back to my seat. I'm like tinking around with my cane, and the host is like, all right, your next comedian is, I'm just tink, tink, tink. All right, your next comedian, run into a chair. Will someone just help him? And I'm just like, I can't even go home. So, sighted people who tell bomb stories, like, you all think bombing's bad, like, try bombing and not being able to freaking find your way off stage. That's a real bomb. But it's been so fun. And I used to do a lot of, I had this thing in my head where I'm like, I'm not gonna be the blind comic. Like, I'm gonna tell other jokes too, and I still do. But like, everything in my life is my vision. Like, it affects everything. And so I found that telling stories of my experiences aren't hacky blind jokes. Like, they're hilarious situations that we get ourselves into, you know, and like I'm working on a bit right now that's like, it's self-deprecating. It's basically when sighted people complain. And like, you know, if my wife comes home from work and like, you know, it's basically like if they get caught in embarrassing situations, like, oh, you think that's embarrassing? Get a little of this. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, I spilled my cup of water in the meeting. It was so embarrassing. I wanted to die. You know, I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh yeah? You know, last week I spilled 3 drinks. 2 of them were not mine. And then got dropped off at the wrong building by an Uber for a work meeting, only to walk through the carousel door. Got stuck on the carousel door for 5 minutes. So someone was just like, I guess I'll go help that moron that can't get through the spinning carousel door. And every time the carousel door would open, I would kind of feel the air of the building. I was like, oh, that was it. All right, I'm going to go around again. And when I feel that, just hop out, you know, and then so someone's like helping me. And I was like, I don't know the last time you've had to been helped through a door, but that's embarrassing, folks. And so, you know, I've had a Happy Gilmore situation. I don't know if you've seen that movie where I'm playing golf with my friend.
One of my favorites.
Literally, yeah, dude, all right, so you'll know this exactly. I'm standing right in front of the guy trying to tee off, and I'm just like, "Good luck, buddy," you know. And he's, you know, in the movie, it's like, "Get out of the way, Mr. Gilmore," you know. And I'm literally just standing right in front of him. And so there's these little things like if you're blind and you're in the wrong place that you're supposed to be. I mean, blind, I love you. I'm one of you, but I hate to break it to you. We do look dumb when we're not where we're supposed to be. It's just how it is, you know. Girls' restrooms, you know, like my 6-year-old, she's in kindergarten, and she is, you know, you forget that they tell people everything, and you know, like walking into women's restrooms, and next thing I know, that Evelyn's been sharing with her class that her daddy goes into girls' restrooms all the time. And I'm just like, oh no. Like, don't tell him, oh my gosh, Evelyn's dad's a weirdo. You know, so there's just these little things that, you know, like introducing my daughter to Home Alone over the holidays. She just got into Home Alone. And of course, it's like, oh, this means booby traps for blind dad. You know, like I'm pretty sure my pinky toe is just torched from her little toys that she's been Kevin McAllistering across the house. But, you know, you tell these stories and, you know, they're just funny, like hide and go seek. One of my favorite hide and go seek joke, because when I was like, how do I make hide and go seek like not some, you know, hacky blind joke? You know what I mean? Because it's so easy just to fish out these jokes about blindness, but like trying to dig into them to where you can tell them in front of blind folks or sighted. Like, that's kind of my rule. Like, will people laugh at this who don't understand what we're going through? And so if I can get there, so like for hide and go seek, it's very simple. My daughter is, you know, she's undefeated in hide and go seek. Her favorite spot is being quiet. And so, you know, that's the joke. Like, she could be sitting at the dinner table just being quiet. What a hiding spot. You won again. You know, and so then you put yourself in those shoes and just, I would assume like someone that can see is now imagining this blind dad walking around as 6-year-old Evelyn June is just sitting there quiet at the dinner table, just twiddling her thumbs. I'm like, this is hide and go seek, everyone. This is how we do it.
That's awesome. So you're definitely more of like a storyteller versus kind of the one-liner type approach.
Yeah, but I do like working that muscle, and so like something that I like to do is you know, just something as simple as reading headlines in my news app and then trying to write something off that, because that's like a short form. little joke that just starts, kind of clicking. One-liners are tough, man. Like they're tough. I don't even care if it's a, this is a stupid joke, but it's like I went to a lawyer to talk about, or he asked if I had a will. I was like, a will to live? It's whatever. It's not that funny, but like try to write a one-liner. It's so hard. And so like Anthony Jeselnik, Hedberg, the folks that do those one-liners so well, like they're filling an hour, with these jokes. Stephen Wright, the old school comic out of Boston,
Sure.
I had a dream that all the babies prevented by the pill came back and they were angry. Like the babies came back that were prevented by the pill and they're all pissed off. That's the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. And so, but I am more of finding a story or a life experience that's true, by the way, because every comic that starts out, they don't know what they're doing. And they'll just, some of my jokes were made up, and making jokes up, you could just feel it in you. Like, even if it was funny, there is something that the audience can tell. It's like you both are it's like, it might be funny, but this isn't real. It's like the way you tell it, I can't explain it. But then when you take a life experience that happened and then dig into it and make it funny, like it's just the way it comes out of your mouth is better. It's genuine, and it's like the audience knows it, which is a weird deal, but it's true.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I just love the perspective on all that and kind of your approach. It sounds like it's taken some time, but you've definitely kind of, carved out a little path and just approach to your comedy.
You said you're a stand-up guy. Who are your guys or gals that you either grew up to liking or currently like?
Yeah, I know you mentioned Letterman. I got a chance to see him live, one of his tapings, which was just, a dream thing to
Wow.
see.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
Joan
awesome.
Rivers, I did see Joan Rivers before she passed, shortly before. She was one of the greats. I mean, super dirty, but just so funny. She was 80 years old, when I saw her, and still had it. I mean, some of the classics. George Carlin, I did see. So I've had the chance to see, and even like a Howie Mandel, a Sinbad. Trying to think who else. Just, some of the newer ones too. Really enjoy. You mentioned Anthony Jeselnik. Big fan of his.
Joan Rivers, like, holy cow. I didn't get to discover her till I think I was watching, my wife was watching, what's that? It's that stand-up, Marvelous Miss Maisel. She's like, Mark,
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched 2 episodes. I'm going to start it over. You're going to love this show. And I started being like, I wonder if she's, and they mentioned Joan Rivers when I was looking up some research on that show. And I started looking at Joan's stuff. Holy cow, she was before her time. Like, she was so good. So good.
No doubt. And as far as female comedians, I mean, you got to put her at the top of the list just in terms of paving a path, for the Ellens, for the Lisa Lampanellis, for the Amy Schumers. I mean, it's, Sarah Silverman.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yup. But yeah, comedy's such a great outlet, like you said, whether you're consuming it or actually, providing it or on stage. I'm sure it's
Yeah. You mentioned some of those comedians, they're super dirty and stuff. Like I told you, I mean, Norm's my guy. Like, I love Norm.
Sure.
I mean, I mentioned Jeselnik, so I obviously like this stuff, but that's something else. I'm not I don't curse, like, just in my everyday life. Like, I'm not, I don't use bad language. Now, like, if I don't have anything against it, and, if I stub my toe, of course things are coming out, but like, and just in conversation. And so, I did really enjoy these clean comics that were so good and funny that you didn't even realize they're clean. Like your Regans, Nate Bargatze now is unbelievable. These guys. And so that's something I try to do too, because you go to these open mics, and anyone who's thinking about doing comedy, I encourage you to go watch an open mic, because you will have the confidence to do it that night. Like, they're just not funny, and then the ones who are, they're awesome, and they're working on their I've seen a guy, I was like, oh, this guy stinks. And then 5 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I see what he's doing. Like, that's hilarious. He's just working on it. But a lot of others, it's just dirty jokes and, you know how it goes. And I was like, let's try not doing that. And it's harder, A, and then B, you can do it anywhere. So if it's funny enough, you can do it anywhere. And so I really do enjoy, the Nates, the Bargazzis, even the Seinfelds, like Regan. I just heard this joke. He's talking about, what kind of doctor does a giraffe go to? He said the throat doctor. And that stuff freaking kills me. And I'm just like, that's the funniest thing. And then, it's like you look in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing? That's not even, these guys are so funny. But yeah, man, I love comedy.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I did see Kevin James. He was on King of Queens. He's done, acting, but he's also done stand-up. And he did not utter a single damn hell in his routine, but he was absolutely hilarious. And I definitely I definitely say it takes a lot more effort to not be dirty, to be clean, and still be funny. I have a lot more respect, honestly, in a lot of cases for folks like that.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about for sure.
Yeah, definitely a comedy nerd. Glad we got to nerd out on it here. But we could have done it the whole time. But maybe in a later day we can just have one dedicated to comedy. Oh yeah, and I know there are a couple other blind comedians out there, so who knows? We could get a nice episode going on that too. Would be fun. Cool. All right. Again, our guest on this episode has been Mark Ivy, and Mark, thank you so much for your time. We are done. Yes, you're a free man.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, enjoy the football today. I know this will be coming out after the fact, but yeah, fun day of football. So, Greg, thank you so much for having me on. And like I said, I'm following the podcast and just appreciate you giving a platform to us blind fellers and gals telling our stories down the road.
Absolutely. Yep. This was so much fun. Really appreciate just your insight, your perspective, your comedy, your sense of humor, everything. So again, thanks again, Mark. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Greg. Have a good one.
To hear more episodes of the Eyes Free Sports podcast and to subscribe, search for Eyes Free Sports on your favorite podcast platform or visit eyesfreesports.com. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter @eyesfreesports.